tonight? What's that? Jeanette? What do you use for reading? As soon as you're ready, Doc, we're alone. Everybody cool? You ready? Good? All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 22nd Board of Ed meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
With liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for those that are watching. We'll get right to our agenda for the evening, and first is our high school student reports. So, ladies, would you like to take it from here?
Thank you. Good evening. Tickets for the Players Club production of Legally Blonde are now available. Performance dates are April 1st at 7 o'clock, April 2nd at 2 and 7 o'clock, and April 3rd at 2 o'clock. Tickets are $15 for students and $20 for adults and can be bought through eastchester.booktix.com or during lunch periods this week. The PTA organized a canine therapy dog to come visit during each lunch period. This gave the hardworking students a chance to take a break and relax with the dog, which was loved by many. Students would like to thank Dr. Capuano and Ms. Gallagher for getting the program back this year. 2 weeks ago, EGO held a spike ball tournament after school as a fundraiser for the senior class. Students got in teams of 2 and competed against each other in short games. We'd like to thank all of the participants of EGO's spike ball tournament and give a shout out to Connell O'Neill and Michael Lawler for becoming the champions of this year's tournament. Spring sports have started. Baseball, softball, lacrosse, and track finished up their tryouts over the course of the last week and are ready to start their season. The baseball team is hosting an hour-a-thon to raise money for their program. Go to buynowcc.com/edge to support our Eagles. Any donations are appreciated as the boys get ready for their season. Similarly, the girls varsity soccer team is having a fundraiser for an upcoming game this summer. Go to Popping Popcorn online to purchase a variety of popcorn and sweets to support our girls. Also, Eastchester Lacrosse is holding a Light Up the Night for Autism April 7th at Hansdale Field. At 5 p.m., the girls' team will go against Valhalla, and at 7, the boys will go against Edgemont. All donations will go to the Eastchester SEPTA and Southeast Consortium.
Going Green is planning to continue with their river cleanups at the Bronx River. Students have the opportunity to work alongside the Westchester Parks Foundation, put on water suits, and go into the Bronx River to clean up trash. This fun and educational trip exposes students to the reality of how much garbage is actually in the river and encourages them to keep our community and environment clean. Their upcoming river cleanup is this Saturday, and all students are welcome to sign up. EGO hosted their annual major spring event, Rock Against Cancer, and it was a big success. Unlike last year, this event was able to be held in person again, which was very exciting. Students performed songs and even some of their original music. There were also plenty of teachers that performed as special guests. All the donations that were made from this event are going to cancer research at the Memorial Sloan Kettering Center. Habitat for Humanity is starting to prepare for Relay for Life, which is the club's main event. This event is run through the American Cancer Society, and it raises money and awareness for those affected by cancer. This is a night filled with fun activities, and everyone is welcomed. This year it will be held on May 21st, and interest forms have been sent out to students who want to participate. Lastly, as we are moving towards the end of the year, juniors will students start to get into the swing of the college process. Guidance counselors will meet with their students to talk about their different interests and colleges in order to prepare themselves for next year. In the next 3 weeks, all college decisions will be released, and seniors will have until May 1st to decide what schools they are going to attend next year, making this an exciting time for our upcoming graduates. As always, thank you for your time, and we hope everyone has a relaxing break.
Okay, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is board committee reports. Do we have any board committee reports? Jackie, you have anything? Or Christy, you want to mention we had a labor committee meeting?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, ladies.
We did have a labor committee meeting, so we're very busy with labor this year. All the many units are negotiating contracts, so we're busy on that, and we've been making really good progress. So I'm feeling good about that, and our administrators and all our units are working hard on that. Right now, we have a Education and Technology Committee meeting coming up in early April, currently scheduled for April 5th. And one of the things on the agenda is something that's on the national agenda, which is discussing books and what books are in the library and what books students are reading. There are national conversations around that, and those conversations are certainly also, brewing here in Eastchester, so we'll be looking at those issues as well. I want to make an announcement about SEPTA. Everyone who's a PTA resident or PTA member, an email went out from SEPTA today to all the units asking for donations, getting ready for bingo and brownies. It's really exciting to have bingo and brownies back. It's coming up on May 7th, and SEPTA is requesting donations from individuals on behalf of your student that would go into some of the prizes for that evening and would be noted in the program as a donation from your child's class. So they're asking for only $5 or as much as you can give for each student to support SEPTA's biggest fundraiser. Usually happens every 2 years to benefit special education programming and students in the district. Eastchester Middle School, PTA, has also been really, really busy. They had a really fun parents' night out at Mickey Spillane's, and there's another parent night out only for 8th grade parents to raise money for 8th grade events, and that's coming up. That'll be at Serafina at the end of the month, end of next month. I think it's April 26th. I have it in my calendar. So that's coming up. Eastchester Middle School PTA has been super busy and is doing a joint meeting with Eastchester High School PTA, is that correct? Or collaborating with Eastchester High School PTA this coming week. This week, tomorrow. Well, it's the Eastchester High School PTA. I encourage Eastchester Middle School parents to go to this particular meeting because it is be a student for an evening. I did it a couple years ago. We haven't had it back because of COVID over the last 2 years, but you can actually do some rounds, go around to other classes, and see what a day in the life of a high school student is like. It's a really great opportunity to see what's happening at the high school. I believe guidance will be there, so you'll be able to meet guidance counselors and talk about how guidance serves students in the high school, and also visit some of your students' classes or classes they might have in the future. So I encourage you to do that. So loads going on, actually, with the PTAs are very busy prepping for all the programming that they're going to be doing for students coming up this spring.
Thank you, Cheryl. Go ahead, Christy.
I'm going to give a plug for the joint PTA meeting tomorrow as well, but from a fashion show perspective. If you have time in your calendar, please attend and sign up to help support the fashion show. It's a holistic district-wide fundraiser, and we welcome everybody, and the funds that are collected will help offset fees for high school activities and the like. So, but all from the district are welcome to attend, and we welcome any volunteer. It's a great way to get involved, a great way to meet people, and to just see what goes on. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you, Christy. Judah, would you like to say something? We're doing board committee reports. You have
I don't
anything?
have any committee reports to report on today, so
Okay,
sorry to be a couple minutes late.
that's okay. You're allowed. You're a volunteer. It certainly sounds like we're starting to get back to normal around here, and let's hope that we keep going in that same direction and, keep it moving. So, Dr. Glass, we have a superintendent's report on the agenda.
Good evening. I apologize for the mask. It might be a little hard to hear me tonight. I've got my voiceover voice now, which happens to me usually annually when I get a cold, which is what I have. So I'm trying to keep my germs to myself, so thank you for bearing with me today. I wanted to just touch on really three things, and first which was to recognize one of our students who I don't think has arrived tonight, So we'll defer that if she comes a little bit later, or we'll also do that another meeting if necessary. But we're very proud of Ava Tapaceras, who was named a 2022 Coca-Cola Scholar. Less than 1/4 of 1% of the applicants that apply for that scholar grant are chosen. So it's a very prestigious award that she's won, and we wanted to recognize her. So we will do that as soon as we're able. We have 2 other reports, the first of which is a report from our middle school. So I'd like to welcome our middle school principal, Madeline LeBeau, and also I think if you have anyone else, I don't know if Courtney's going to be joining you, Madeline, but we're glad you're here today, and we appreciate you sharing with us what's happening at the middle school. She's got a great report for you tonight to help you understand some of the things and the goals that they've been working toward throughout the school year. It's all yours, Madeline. Take it away.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Glass, and good evening to everyone. Tonight I'm going to present about our strategic reading services at the middle school, which we are very proud of and which have evolved significantly over the past 3 years. And I give full credit to Mrs. Courtney Jukic here today, our Tier 2 reading intervention teacher. And I'm going to go ahead and present. Okay, so as we know, Tier 1 is the general level for everyone, for all students in the school, and where we use some tools such as our NWEA assessments to measure growth and measure students in terms of their reading skills and their math skills, specifically in reading. The Tier 2 services, which is the reading class that Courtney teaches, this level of service is provided to students that we've identified through a number of ways and a number of data points. And in addition to their ELA class, the students in this small group reading class are received services to target specific reading needs and provide remediation. Instruction in the strategic reading class closely targets students' specific reading needs. Here's actually a picture of Courtney's classroom, how she sets up the books in that class. And the Tier 2 reading services, this class meets on alternate days. We have the day 1, day 2 schedule at the middle school, and part of the instruction in this class includes strengthening comprehension in both fiction and nonfiction books. Students are able to practice and build upon reading stamina through independent reading. Courtney Jukic does a great job in having a variety of books and selection for students to encourage students to select their own books and books that are motivating for them to read and that they can enjoy, through which she addresses skill deficits identified through our MAP assessments, which is our NWA assessment. We use our Fountas and Pinnell as well as the BAS assessments to not only measure but identify those reading needs. Additional materials that we use is the Alexia Power Up, the 6 through 12 that we have access to, as well as teacher resources, notes. Courtney also subscribes to the scholastic reading articles that she brings into the class and infuses that into the daily instruction as well as conferencing with students. And a profile of a student that we identified as receiving these services is a student who is in middle school and reads 1 or 2 levels below our grade level benchmarks in Eastchester based on the Fountas and Pinnell reading assessments. Students that are often not reading outside of assigned reading or ELA, that are not motivated to read independently or aren't reading outside of school. We also identify students to coding needs, and usually issues that are usually present within the Fountas and Pinnell assessments shows this accuracy. Students that often struggle with comprehension or in the ability to summarize information or provide a deeper understanding of the content that they read, as we know that this directly correlates with their ability to understand content literature within the classrooms, specifically now with the literacy being so directly targeted in areas such as science, social studies, in addition to our ELA class. Mathematics as well includes those word problems for which these skills are necessary. And these students typically need to develop personal vocabulary or build or interact with more complex vocabulary in order to be successful across curricular areas. So, reading intervention overview and an approach in grades 6 through 8. This is our Tier 3 service. So Once a student has worked closely in the Tier 2 level services and we feel that the student may need additional support, then we recommending for our Tier 3 reading services. And the reading intervention course is designed to foster and encourage a positive relationship with reading for those students who struggle most in our school. We're bolstering independence, confidence, again, targeting those comprehension needs and to assist them with performing academically. The students in Tier 3, reading intervention is provided in addition to their ELA course and in a small group. The class placement is determined by teacher referral. We use, again, numerous data points in addition to the NWE results, classroom tests, standardized test scores to determine this level of intervention. And so individual students are assessed through many ways, and we do these assessments individually, not only to target the growth and identify needs, but also to identify specific areas that they may need, such as vocabulary, decoding, so that we can target the intervention to be specific to their needs. And of course, we continuously monitor those interventions closely. Again, this is a picture actually from Courtney Jukic's classroom. And our Tier 3 intervention services continue here. This class can meet, while our Tier 2 services meet typically on alternating days, oftentimes our Tier 3 services are recommended on a daily basis to provide that additional level of support when needed. And we work on those comprehension skills, decoding skills, encoding skills, and phonetic awareness as well in the Tier 3 level support services. And the resources used are similar to those in Tier 2. We continue to monitor closely those individual needs and individual goals of the students by using those resources listed here. ReadWorks and Just Words are also used in the level 3, Tier 3 services. So a typical profile of a student that's recommended for the Tier 3 services is students that require support that is more support than that is offered in the alternating day Tier 2 intervention. The student is reading at least 2 levels below the benchmark set forth in the Eastchester F&P grade level. Benchmarks, that is, and students who are in need of more intensive support to improve their academic outcomes. And the learning environment in all of our reading support and strategic reading environments, again, these are actual photos from Mrs. Courtney Jukic's classroom. And we provide small group, typically 6 to 12 students in the classes. This allows for a heightened level of individualized support for each student. A smaller setting also helps build confidence for students so that they can practice the skills that are taught to them in a smaller group and foster their independence that way. This also provides opportunity to reinforce skills. And I have to say that in addition to this level of support, I can attest for Courtney's ability to collaborate very, very closely with the ELA teachers, as well as school counselors, as well as parents. I know we listed ways in which we assess and in which we determine what levels of reading support the middle school students need. But the way that she collaborates and the data points that she's able to use to make real targeted approach to strategically implementing and addressing the students' needs, it's beyond those that I can list. She's really doing a fantastic job, and we've seen our students really develop their reading skills and do well under her interventions. Currently at the middle school, we have 62 students enrolled in grades 6 through 8 in the Tier 2 services, and currently we have 41 students enrolled in our Tier 2 services. And noted we started the year with 44 students in the Tier 2 services, and this is great news because those students have been transitioned to less support, which is what we want and what we aim to do. Once we see growth in Tier 3, we want to be able to reduce those services so they have opportunities to enroll in other special area courses or opportunities in the middle school. Okay, so in addition to that, I prepared some other information just to let you know some of the fun things that are not that strategic reading is not fun, because of course it is very fun. I've gone in there myself. but we are always trying to improve the middle school experience. We want our students to be happy, to enjoy their day, to look forward to coming to school. So we look forward to celebrating their success as well as providing an environment where they can engage socially with friends in a developmentally appropriate way. This is a picture of our bulletin board in our main hallway from last week for our March Madness Spirit Week that we participated in. And I'm happy to show a list here as well for some of the events and activities that we've planned this year. We enjoyed a fun trip to the Ellis Island, and Mr. Wynn, thank you for chaperoning that event. We took our entire 8th grade, 260 students with us. And to give some background, I was in the middle of the cafeteria just talking with kids at the beginning of the year. We're talking about the alignment, not that they, wanted to realize that they were talking about the alignment of the content in social studies and the ELA content. And I said, some of these things are available at Ellis Island. I said, can we go? And I said, I think we can. So called Dr. Glass, can we go to Ellis Island? And that's kind of where the trip came from. And I'm happy to be able to support students in that way. It was a really wonderful experience. Some pictures there show we're on the ferry boat to Ellis Island and made a quick stop at the Statue of Liberty. That was back in November. We also provided the students with an FEI presentation that focused on cyberbullying and making good decisions while online. And we had a local FBI agent from the Westchester County Federal Bureau for Investigation, their office there, come and present to the students on those topics, and that was very informative as well. We are able to return to some pre-COVID events, such as the 8th grade group class pictures coming up next Friday, and we're going to wear our sweatshirts from our trip for that. We have some author visits planned for 6th grade, both on April 6th and June 1st, and we thank our PTA for collaborating those visits with us. We recently held our incoming 6th grade parent orientation last Tuesday evening, and we are welcoming the Greenvale and Ann Hutch students to the middle school for live visits on June 2nd and 3rd. Additionally, with the help of the team leaders and leading teachers in the school, we've planned some field trips coming up for all grade levels. The 6th and 7th grade will be enjoying some leadership building activities at the BOE Environmental Center in Upper Westchester County. And I've also planned an end of the year trip for the 8th grade to Six Flags Great Adventure to celebrate their accomplishments in middle school, of course. Here's some pictures from Spirit Week of our amazing and beautiful middle school students. From Pajama Day, some others, smiling faces. And we have a lot of fun with friends during lunch. 6th grade lunch has actually turned out into a 6th grade's Got Talent, where multiple times a week we have students perform for us, do all kinds of acts and show off their talents at lunch. And some additional just hallway smiling faces, visiting lockers. That we've had lockers since the beginning of the year. Mid-year, we transitioned to encouraging students to use their lockers and practice those independent and organizational skills, because we noticed that as we transition with backpacks, a lot of students were not using their lockers and walking around with 15 to 20 pound backpacks. So we transitioned successfully to using our lockers for the 3rd marking period. Some more students here. Top left is our technology class, some STEM exercises, and just smiling faces. And of course, we encourage our students to choose kindness. Our daily message in the morning is reminding students to make good choices and be kind to one another. That's actually a decal that we ordered recently that was installed in the 6th grade hallway on the 2nd floor. And we thank you for all your support. And if you have any questions, just let me know.
Ms.
Madeline?
LeBou, it's okay, you don't have to go up to the podium.
Well, I have questions, and I know I'm going to ask them.
No, is the reading intervention program, was this formerly known as, and I could be mixing apples and oranges, the humanities class? Was that different?
Yes, it's where it was developed from.
Which I think is wonderful. This is really wonderful in terms of how you're identifying the different tier 1, tier 2, and I have to give a shout out to Courtney, and I can't pronounce her last name.
Juke.
Oh, hello there. Phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah, she's doing a great job.
She really just hones in on the areas where children need to improve, and not afraid to share, where the improvement area is. And to your point, I was wondering, and you brought it up in the slide, that children are actually moving out because they've gained all of that great insight and experience. So I think it's wonderful, and it's great to see the evolving of that program. So thank you.
Courtney, thank you.
Cheryl?
So you said there are 6 to 12 students per class. Does Courtney have support in class with her? So in other words, how many teachers are in the classroom?
I'm going to ask Courtney to come up and join me.
I'm on the hot seat. It's just me in the classroom, so there is no extra support, there's no TAs or anything. So it's just me with them in the classroom. So we're able to do some small groups, we're able to break into even smaller groups, have some stations going on, so that I'm able to work with them even more one-on-one, which is helpful. Yeah.
How long have you been in the district?
This is my third year here. So been
Oh.
teaching for 14 years, but this is my third year.
3
district.
eventful years.
Yes.
So I was going to ask if we're noticing any difference in the middle school in terms of need with reading intervention services. There's a lot of talk about more higher level of academic needs coming out of the last couple of years. So I was curious about that.
Our numbers have been pretty steady across the 3 years that I've been here. Obviously, what we do is, as we take a look at the different cohorts, we're going to base the students who need to come to me based on the cohorts. So we could say, like, 1 year it's 1 to 2 levels below, maybe it's a group that's struggling more, so I need to see, and we need to adjust the levels. So it's very fluid. As we're going through, we'll see like the different pockets of needs and be able to adjust. We're actually just articulated with the 5th grade reading teachers, so I'm able to see who's coming up, so that then we can better identify, the amount of sections we need, the amount of support we need, and place students properly. So.
I just wanted to make a quick comment about all the activities. It's so awesome, great partnership with the PTAs on some of those, and you're really, the field trips and the ways that you're able to kind of get students out and about and having fun in school has been phenomenal. Thank you so much. How are the numbers with the SOAR Evermore invitation that went out to students to meet with you and Dr. Glass to talk about their experiences in school? How's your sign-ups going?
Yeah, they're going well. They're significantly higher in the 8th grade than they are in the other, and then 2nd to 6th, 7th, and then 6th. I remind the students at lunch, and I have an email again going out to them as a reminder. So we're looking forward to that.
I have maybe a technical question. So you mentioned that we have kids that are going from Tier 3 kids that sort of graduated out of Tier 3. Do they graduate into Tier 2, or do they, okay. So
It
basically
depends. It really depends on the student.
Okay.
There's some students who can graduate from Tier 3 and they've had such intensive support that we feel as though we can kind of release them to the Tier 1 classroom. But we also have lists of students who we always, are keeping an eye on too. And those students who are moved between the tiers, oftentimes if we need to, we'll ask them to come and just stop by for a study hall just to check in too, so that they still feel as though they have that support. So it's not just let go and, they're left on their own, so.
Great, thank you. And then I'll just say that I also am a big fan, as you know, and one of the evidences of that is my daughter she hates when I bring her up in public, but my daughter has had the opportunity to sub for your class and has mentioned that the kids are very engaged, and it's one of her favorite classes to sub for because it's so organized, and she really enjoys it, so.
And Courtney motivates the students in many different ways to read, and one of the ways that she makes it really fun is that they keep track of how many books they read. So, and you can explain.
Yeah. So we tally them, and we talk about the fact that it's not a competition between kids. I may read 25 books, you may read 4, and those are both successes. But we tally them, and I think we had, I can't remember the title, like 500 or 600 at the middle of the year from my 6th to 8th classes for 60 kids to read, about 10 books each if we did an average. That was huge, especially for students who aren't always, wouldn't always identify them as readers themselves. So it's been great.
Okay. Yes.
It sounds like you're having a lot of success with these small groups and these kind of below grade average level students. I was wondering if you have or if you've considered having a small group type thing like that for the kind of above grade average tier 0, if you will, students. Is there something like that?
I love that, tier 0. That's great, actually. We might start using that. We've talked about the evolution of the program to be able to have my program end up, pushing into classrooms, to being able to take some small groups as we are able to kind of adjust the program a little bit, where it's not always being pulled out into a classroom, where I'm able to push in to be able to see more students. And that would be a perfect opportunity to meet with extra students as well.
And to add to that, a lot of the, especially I know sixth grade just finished their Egypt unit, and there's a lot of level literacy that takes place there in what we call book clubs, book groups, where students read about the same topic, but they are grouped according to their reading level, so they can read at higher levels and consistently aligned with the topic of discussion as a whole, and then they go into more homogeneously grouped levels of reading groups.
The book clubs, are they at every grade level?
I'm sorry.
Are they at every grade level, the book clubs?
I believe each
Yes.
grade level is doing some form of book clubs,
The
yes.
8th grade's currently
Yeah, the eighth
beginning.
grade, yeah, they're doing their second round of book clubs right now for 8th grade.
Thanks.
I got a couple of questions. And what I start with is do you have any metrics as to, you've got over 100 kids in this program at this point, and, why are they in the program? Are they English second language student? How many are English second language students? How many are at each grade level? If you look at the students in a particular grade level, what percentage is from which elementary school? Or, in other words, if you have 6th grade and you've got 20 kids in the 6th grade, are 15 of them from Greenvale or 15 from Hutch? Do you look at things like where do the students in that grade level fall age-wise within their cohort? Are they the youngest kids in their class, the oldest kids in their class? And I guess what I'm trying to ask is, do you look at any types of metrics that would say maybe we're doing something wrong earlier in their education career that are forcing the deficit that they need to correct in the middle school? Did I explain that
understand what you're
properly?
saying. Yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten to the point yet where we're looking at the data that specifically. It is something I think is important to notice as we work through it. A lot of the students, especially the 6th grade who come in, have been receiving some type of support in 5th grade, or were identified in the classroom by their classroom teachers as a kid who might need some extra support. So that's why by 6th grade they're still, receiving this extra reading support. But I can't talk to the data.
The the tier 3 intervention does, a lot of the students in there that make up those numbers are students who have identified IEPs. So they've, some of that support is offered as part of their individual education plan to work on specific goals related to reading.
Okay. All righty, thank you. No other questions. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last part of the report tonight, I'm going to need to go to the podium to operate the slides, but I do want to talk a little bit about budget, an update on the budget where we are at this moment. So I'll go do that and be right back. Okay, just wanted to update you since our last board meeting. Assistant Superintendent Lisa Sanfilippo gave you the beginnings of our budget, really mainly talking about revenues. What I want to talk about tonight is projected expenses. and how those expenses are supporting our priorities. So really this will be in four brief parts tonight. First, what are our priorities and objectives that are taken from our goals and our strategic planning? Secondly, how will we fund those priorities through personnel, which is obviously the most significant portion of expenditure that we have. Thirdly, what other budget considerations do we have that are non-personnel related? And then lastly, excuse me, what are the next steps? So I'm going to summarize our priorities and objectives. Again, these come out of our strategic planning. They come out of our goal setting for this year, our SMART goals. But if you were to categorize them, I mean, first thing we're trying to do is we're trying to meet our students' academic and social emotional needs post-pandemic. You've heard some conversation about that tonight and some examples about how that gets done at the middle school. This is going to be really, really important for the next several years. The second part is to strengthen our core programs, our core services and systems. So, we're revamping the English language arts program, are looking at our math programs at the elementary level, and we're looking, of course, you heard about our science investigation from Tri-State Commission. So, these are things that we're working hard on as well, trying to make the core programs, especially in our earlier years, as strong as possible. And then we're going, based on the study we did of our IT operation, we want to increase our capacity in the area of technology and make that a more coherent, supported program. And coming out of strategic planning, we recognized that we wanted to strengthen our K-12 STEM program and the continuity there. So I'm going to go building by building and talk about some of the staffing, the budget priorities that would meet the identified four areas that I've discussed. First, at the high school, we'll be adding almost a full-time position in business education, adding some ENL services, building out sort of the final phase of a computer science and robotics, sort of a STEM K-12 program that would incorporate a robotics course and some computer science offerings that we don't currently have at the high school level. And some of that could involve addition in the 8th grade level of some programming. So you'd have something that starts at kindergarten and really terminates at grade 12 with an experience that is really significant. So there's a 1.0 add there. That's really exciting and really an area that I personally am excited about. I think this really launches us into some new territory. And then, as you know, we expanded the co-teaching at the high school last year. So as a follow-on to that, we would expand our co-teaching of Algebra 2 and chemistry. This could be budget neutral. It could be a small budget add. That's why I have not put an ad of personnel there next to it yet. I still need to kind of look at that. In the middle school, we're adding a little bit of clerical support in the main office and lunch supervisors. At Ann Hutch, we're adding, we propose to add an assistant principal. We propose to add 2 special education co-teachers. This would take our co-teaching program at grades 2 through 5 into the full-time realm. Currently, it's half-time to cover English language arts and math. This would take it full-time to cover all subject areas all day, and expand our academic intervention services by 0.5 and share that with Greenvale. And so what you see at Greenvale is something that mirrors essentially what's at Ann Hutchinson. The only difference being that we would add a couple of monitors that are identified as needs at Greenvale. So this is a significant support service expansion, and it builds off of tier three or co-taught services, I should say, that are present, that really started at the middle school and now it moves them more completely, down into the earlier grades. And in future years, as foundation aid is projected for at least one more year to expand, we would hope to as part of that, expand our co-teaching into lower grades, and perhaps expand it a little bit in the upper grades as well. Waverly, we would be adding the assistant principal as well. I want to just mention that Mr. Wynn's done a study of all the local districts. We're the only school district that we can identify in the region that has elementary schools of over 400 and in some cases 500. But once you get over 400, we can't find any schools who don't have assistant principals. And really, as a former elementary principal, I can tell you that in my opinion, the job has expanded. The demands of the job have expanded in the last decade or so. And I think it's very important if we want instructional leadership and support for our teachers who work incredibly hard, that those assistant principals are a vital component of that to provide all the support that's necessary. And so that is why we're proposing that. Even though it is not direct service, we believe that it provides substantial benefit to our students and allows us to move student outcomes forward in a significant way, especially when bundled with supports that are direct service as we proposed. For our facilities, we would propose to add a maintenance labor position for our grounds and another night custodial position as a floating position within the district. And in technology, coming on the heels of recommendations that were made through the study that was done by Jeff Sun's organization, we would like to add some computer aid support and also an elementary technology facilitator and a secondary technology facilitator. Those are really important positions. They are positions that we used to have, at least in some form or fashion, at the time we had them. I think Eastchester was, this is well before my time, was one of the components that made us a leader in the area of instructional technology. Having those levels of support, again, I think will help move us forward, and that was identified in the study. There are some, of course, non-personnel related considerations. I'm just going to touch on them in generalities because really I wanted to focus on the instructional components. But we know we're going to need to invest, and we have put money aside in the budget, in this year's budget, to incrementally increase the replacement and updating of our instructional materials in math, in ELA, and science, our professional development in all of our core areas, including special education and technology. We're going to continue to invest in hardware and software. We're going to continue to provide development of the multi-tiered systems of support and the positive behavior intervention services. These are foundational ways of operating that we've been working on intensively. I have to thank everybody associated with that in the instructional department, Noreen Ursula for leading that charge with regard to PBIS. This is ongoing professional development work that is going to take several years to fully bear fruit, but it's moving along very nicely according to our action plan. And of course, as Lisa Sanfilippo mentioned in our last presentation, we have transfer to capital that will address some pressing needs that were not put into the bond. I'll give you some examples. There's a lot of masonry work along some of our buildings that we're looking at that was removed in the interest of cost control in the bond. So things like that are going to continue to have to be attended to. Lastly, our next steps. We've got the New York budget adoption deadline of April 1st. On April 19th, we need to adopt a budget, so we have one more meeting between now and then, and we can discuss any of this further. And on the 19th, we need to adopt. May 3rd, we'll make that budget document available to the public per requirement. On May 10th, we will hold a budget hearing. And on May 17th, we will have a budget vote and a trustee election, of course. So that's the glide path to landing the budget conversation. So with that, if it's okay with you, I can just return to my seat, and if you have questions, we can discuss from there. And also, certainly, if you have any other questions or like to discuss any of this would be a good time to do it. And you have a lot of knowledgeable people around the table who can join that discussion on our administrative staff.
The presentation.
Some mirrored, shared, yeah. I mean, so are you saying there's two special ed and half of a math AIS that are split between the two, or is it 4 and 1?
Question. 2.5 additions at each school.
Just the way you said it, I thought it might have been shared.
Yeah, I was trying to sort of save time, but thank you. I think I made it less clear when I did that.
That's all good.
So just to be clear, you have 2.0 ad for co-teaching at Greenville and the same at Ann Hutch in addition, 2.0, 2.0. And one person shared for AIS math, 0.5 and 0.5. So each would receive a net of 2.5. Total of 5.
Any other questions? Yes. Cheryl Klein.
So could you explain what the computer aid position does?
Yeah, this is going to be just more or less support for, day-to-day operations and things that come up in the department.
Okay. And then the 2 tech facilitators, will those be in addition to the building level teachers who are currently doing that work?
Right now, the intention is that we would be replacing the 5 ed tech facilitators that we created. That was we always intended that would kind of be the stepping stone back to having full-time ed tech facilitators, 1 at elementary, 1 at secondary.
Okay, great. And is the idea ideally to fill those positions with teachers, classroom teachers?
They will be teachers. It'll be like a teacher on special assignment. Whether they're filled with internal staff or we go out, that's still yet to be discussed.
And is there any discussion, just while we're on that, with the assistant principals at the 3 elementary schools of encouraging current teachers to apply? I mean, we always used to talk quite a bit about building pipelines for some of our teachers who are interested in going into administrative work. So I don't know if there have been discussions about that.
There's always room for internal growth, that's for sure. We encourage, if there are people who are internal and who are certified, we would encourage them to apply and join us in the process as we look for the best candidate for meeting those needs within each of those 3 elementaries.
And then one more question. I don't know how far into the weeds you can get with this, but I'm going to ask a question about the additional teacher at the high school for math, computer science, and robotics. This is really exciting. So we've talked about it for a long time. And I know that, looking at the curriculum in the high school, because enrollment in course A will affect and could affect enrollment in other courses, as you talked about at the last board meeting, Dr. Glass. But I'm curious, what is the goal with this, or for the immediate future? Are you looking at adding, for instance, electives? What grades would have access to those electives? Can you give us any kind of information about the level of those courses, the prerequisites for those courses, and who would be able to take those courses?
Yeah, it's still a little early, and if Mr. Wynn wants to comment, he's a little closer to it. I think that the thought was that you would have an introductory level course, and then you would have some other elective courses, including robotics, that you could move into. And then that may not be the end of it, though. And certainly we recognize that even at 8th grade, there's a need too. So in looking at how we reposition that 1.0, we know we have a couple ads in terms of the course catalog, right? One being a robotics course. There's a web design course that's being talked about as well. So we're just trying to find the right mix. I don't know if...
Yeah, so I think the overall goal is to make sure that over time that we're ending up creating a full sequence that students can take a variety of courses from the beginning of high school all the way through, and that we set the foundations in middle school. So I need to give a lot of credit to Erin Glinmeyer, who is one of our math teachers. She's also the math department chairperson, who's been really working hard to kind of establish this and has been advocating strongly for it. But Dr. Glass is right. We're looking at a true foundations course, a web design elective, a cybersecurity elective, possibly like an app development elective for the future, and then bolstering our computer science program to make sure that our students have access and are really exploring computer science from a number of different perspectives, but also thinking about what we can do potentially in 8th grade, where we can really set some good foundational skills for students to get them even farther by the time they get into high school. So really looking for that vertical articulation piece, and I think this 1.0 ad will get us moving in a really positive direction.
You can also imagine tons of ways to enhance and add to the extracurricular kinds of clubs and activities that students could do. And I think there's been so much success with advanced science research. We've seen that when students have opportunities to really work closely with some of our amazing science and math faculty, on research projects, they can do great things, and that this could expand into that as well. There's lots of research and building and engineering kind of research that could be done, that could be supported, both curricularly and extracurricularly.
And I think that's the goal, is to try to expand as many possibilities for exposure as we can get. And I know one of the things that Erin was looking at, and especially within this robotics program, was really making sure that we expose students to a number of different computer science languages, so that when they get into, if they're interested in go into college, they've got exposure to a number of different languages within the computer science realm, so that they can be successful and really fly.
Any other questions? I presume we'll have our next budget meeting our next workshop meeting will pretty much be focused on the budget, and we'll be looking at all the semi-final numbers and having further discussions on this. So, thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Next item is, okay, where are we? No, comments from the public on agenda items, sorry. Okay, if anyone would like to come up and speak on any items on the agenda, please restrict it to the agenda. Feel free, anyone? Okay. No comments on the agenda, fine. Next, we don't have any discussion items on the book tonight, so let's move over to the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything they want removed from the consent agenda at this point? No? Okay. Jonah, would you like to move the consent agenda?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda, which includes the following: 8 minutes, 9 personnel agenda, 10 committee on preschool special education / special education recommendations, 11 business office recommendations.
Okay. Judah, would you like to second that? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody want to make a comment on the, I think there was a donation in there. Would someone want to mention that? Yes, no? All right, I'll mention it. You want to mention it? All right.
No, you go ahead.
No, you can do it. Go ahead.
I don't know. Go ahead.
All right. There was a donation that was accepted from the Science and Regeneron, Society for Science and Regeneron Award in the amount of $4,000 to Eastchester High School to be used as a purchase for high school science supplies. So that's something worth noting. Okay?
I was actually just going to mention that in the budget adjustment, that I was thinking about that donation, a huge donation from Ann Hutch PTA of over $30,000 for outdoor tables for the elementary school for Ann Hutch Elementary. So thank you to the Ann Hutch PTA. That's
Okay.
a big one.
Good. Thank you to everyone. Okay, so now we're up to our future meeting dates coming up are April 5th, which is a work session. April 19th, I believe, is a regular session. And May 10th, is that the budget adoption or something? Whatever. April 19th is the budget adoption, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, now we're up to comments from the public. Would anyone like to come up and comment on any item? Just please keep within the 3 minutes if you can. Well, if you can, please keep it within the 3 minutes, and nothing about particular personnel. Anybody? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you behind the screen there. That's okay. Take your time. Make sure you speak into the mic.
Hi. So I know tomorrow's leaders wasn't at the last meeting. We usually avoid the work sessions. We come to the regular sessions. But I did hear, and I watched when the video got uploaded, that there is some interest in considering student input on various issues. Whether that's like a direct chat with students or any sort of public forum. I just wanted to come and recommend that. I know a lot of us in Tomorrow's Leaders, we do a lot more than just prepare for these speeches and write them. We spend so much time scouring board docs and every district page on everything that we talk about. So we'd really love an opportunity to discuss with everybody in some sort of a productive forum rather than just us talking at you. I know that we have a lot to offer. We are a very well-rounded group. We offer a very, diverse perspective on at least the high school student body, whether that's, in terms of identity or just opinion. We can really offer a lot. So we'd really love it if there's some sort of an opportunity for us to actually get together and engage in some productive conversation. I know a lot of us would really appreciate that. I know that, the talk about student input has been mentioned a few times at these board meetings. That's something that we would honestly really love. It's kind of the reason that we formed together in the first place. We came together out of a passion for making our classrooms a better place, making this environment more friendly, more nourishing, and more welcome. So I put down my name. I know this is my first time coming here without a mask, so this is my first time seeing a lot of people. My name is Khushbu Dalani. I'm here with Sophia McGann and Amukta. It's very easy to reach us personally, but I did write down my name in less of a scribble this time. If anybody wants to reach out, it's the same district email as anyone else. But we would really love this, and it's our senior year, but we do have a few little mini Tomorrow's Leaders in training right now. But we would love to have a conversation before we graduate as well. So that's it. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you. Just to comment on that, yes, the students have been heard. We're starting that process. Meetings are going to be set up, and we're going to continue. That's going to evolve forward. Whatever we start with is going to be where we end up or finish with. It's going to be developed over time. And I just must comment to you because it's so much more effective when you go up there and speak from your heart instead of reading something off your phone. And I commend you on that. That was a job well done. Thank you. Sure.
First, a few events have been set. The dates for the first few events have been set. If it hasn't reached you yet, it should be out any day from Dr. Capuano. April 4th at 7:30, April 25th at 7:30, and May 16th at 7:30. Those three are just for starters. They're open to anyone, so Google a Sign Up Genius is already put together, and that will be coming out very shortly. And I anticipate we'll build off of that with even more, but those are the initial kickoff meetings, and they'll last about an hour. And I think from there we'll see how it builds out. We're doing the same at the middle school as well, and those have already gone out, and those are signing up at quite a rate. It's exciting.
Can I, since we're commenting, I'd just add one thing to this. There's also a precedent for some of what Khushbu was just mentioning, in that in the fall of 2019, when I was board president, we did have some board members go to an EGO meeting. So we actually were able to meet. We worked with the the faculty advisor of the club and with Dr. Capuano. We visited a board meeting, an EGO meeting, and talked to the students in that context. And remember, we also brought some EGO students into an executive session to talk to the entire board. So I think there is precedent to have different kinds of conversations and different spaces for conversations, work with clubs at the high school or other locations, and facilitate those between the board and the students. I think it's a great idea, and obviously something that I support, since we were doing that back in 2019, and we had plans for more, but alas, 2020 devolved into what it devolved into, yeah.
And I'll just add on that some board members have been invited into classrooms and spoken to the kids. I know I went to one. I think, Judy, you went to one as well. And if we get invited, we'll show up, so it's out there. Okay, thank you. Normally, we don't comment, but this was worth the comment. So anybody else like to address the board?
Hi, thank you very, very much. I am honored to be here during Women's History Month, and I just want to take it.
I can't hear you.
Thank you. I just want to take this opportunity to celebrate and acknowledge and really take into account and support all those who identify as women and girls who support our communities, and to use this moment to bring a poem by a Kurdish poet, Choman Hardy. And her poem is called A Woman Before Her Time, for Allah Mansour. You were a beautiful beginning, full of words, radiance, ideas, ignition, the only female voice amongst the men. They were all ears when you spoke, all eyes when you showed up. You loved bravely, wrote honestly, lived up to your ideals, swam against the tide. You were a rebellion, a promise of freedom, unequaled if only the nation could see. Your people did not kill you for honor. They did not want to make a martyr of you. Bit by bit, stage by stage, they killed you. They first silenced you, then they threatened you. They turned you into a joke, laughed at you. They considered you sick, a mad woman. Then they gave you up to loneliness, left you alone. Their disrespect killed you. Fear and isolation killed you. The men of this country, some in the name of love, feigning openness, yet full of honor stones. Some in the name of religion, their hands washed for prayer, their mouth full of fatwa. Some in the name of friendship, their ears eager, their mouths full of gossip. Some in the name of literature with smiley faces and critical lips. Some in the name of politics, apparently liberal. All had a hand in your slow murder. Anyone who once inhaled your sorrow's smoke, witnessed your frightening loneliness, had remotely known of your heartbreaks should have known that the day would come. It will quickly come. You would suddenly leave us without a word. The day came, Dada Alam. You left us. It is too late to drink a bitter tea with you, tell you how, as a young woman, we delighted in your existence. We have no time left, Dada Alam. We woke up too late. After you left us, as we started writing poems, articles, confessions, took your wake to a mosque, a place where men were against you, this nation, which until your last days was full of hard words and war, is now asking for your forgiveness. This nation is doomed to regret because it never learns a lesson. Its longest commemoration is a couple of days, then it's picnics, forgetting what had just happened, where it is heading, what it should be doing. We're late, Dada Alam. As usual, we are very late. You left early. And in this time of the attacks on trans women and trans girls and women all across the world with the attack in Ukraine, I just want to take this moment to say, let us celebrate and support those that make it possible for us to be here today.
Thank you.
Jen Harrison, 90 Park Drive. Just to keep pointing out that I hear about these conversations with kids. I hear nothing about DEI. I hear nothing to understand that you need to make kids that aren't white comfortable, that you need to address that they don't have the same perspective as a white kid in this town. And yet I hear nothing. And that to me, you know, I don't expect to hear anything, but I'm just going to keep calling it out. Because I actually said to both my girls, I said, you know, I was at the board meeting last week, and I said, you know, they want to have, you know, groups where guys can go talk. I guess what? They want you to go talk to two white guys. You want to go? Like, are you kidding? Are you kidding? And yet we sit here. You know, I actually probably tried to count how many times I heard the word diversity last week. It's like we're tiptoeing around it. It's not, I'm watching the clock. We're tiptoeing around it. We're not talking about it. We're not doing anything about it. This idea that you're going to have a bunch of students sign up on a Google form and like Yahoo, we're going to sit, and what are you going to talk about? You think a black kid's going to say their feelings? Or Hispanic kid? Or transgender kid? You think that's a safe space? Do you know what safe space means? You know, it's just astonishing to me that all this effort into diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that, you know, we are Eastchester, is meaningless. By the time, if you want to have these little conversations and you don't make any accommodations for making sure that people are feeling safe, it's worthless. And you're not addressing the problem at hand, which is that we need to make sure that all kids feel welcome, that all kids feel valued, that we tell their stories, that we include them in stories that are being told in our history, that we don't have conversations about banning Ruby Bridges, that we start actually being honest about, you know, if you're not going to do it, then just say that. If you're not going to have any regard for the diversity and equity and making people feel included, then just say that. Just say that you want it the way it was. Just say that, you know, we want our history nice. You know, we want our history to make everybody feel comfortable, no angry white people anywhere. Just say it, because that's what you're doing. You're not making any change. Zero, nothing. Thank you.
Somebody else would like to come up? Yes? Please, after you speak, you could sign in. This way we know who you are.
Hi, good evening. My name's Gabriella Florimond. I have two questions. So my first question, and I might have missed this, I was just wondering, have we published the full strategic account vision work that is it like out on our, yeah, okay. And do we have our goals and objectives for our students fully visible and published in all our school buildings for everyone to see, including students and parents? Because I think that's very important, not just for the people in this room who worked on that project, but I think it's really important for the people who that project is directed to in improving their academic journey through our district, for them to see that. I work in various school districts in Greenwich, Connecticut. They have their strategic objectives published very visibly when you walk in the building, as well as in other school buildings that I've been in. So I think if we haven't considered that, I think that would be something that I would go a long way with people's understanding, as well as possibly doing a little bit of a roadshow for parents. I know we had John Costa here at one of our board meetings talking about what came out of the plan and all the hard work and the time and the effort, but I honestly don't think a fraction of our community really understands what that plan is all about, and how what we presented today in the budget really equates to that. So when people start talking about money and spending money and head count, it's important for them to know why we're building out our STEM program, or we see the need to have more co-teaching classrooms as we, really become a more inclusive learning environment, right? So I think there's this assumption that parents know, but they don't. So I think we, as a community of educators, can do a better job educating our community in information that's important for them in decision making. And then the last thing I just wanted to ask was, do we have we spoken about adding any headcount around a district equity leader? In the school district I work in currently, we have somebody there, and I think that role is like pivotal in developing staff in the new cultural responsive framework that has come out from New York State, and also educating the community, educating the parents, and educating all the children. So we haven't heard much about that, or maybe I haven't heard, and I apologize for that, but it would be a topic that I would love to hear more about at a future meeting, or maybe not in this forum, but like a separate meeting that's for the community to hear about. So thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Sure. Next up.
Hi, I'm Renee Howell. I live on Dante Avenue. I've been watching some of the school board meetings remotely, and there are a couple things that I wanted to come and comment on because I found them very, very disturbing, things that happen in school board meetings and things that happen outside of school board meetings. So one thing, I heard some of the board members say was, what is the job of the school board? It's about doing what's best for the kids. And I thought that was really misleading. So I found this paper, which I'm going to send all of the school board members after this meeting, from the Centers on Education Policy from George Washington University, which is a really great history of public education, how it started, why it started, how it evolved, and what the role of the school board is in sustaining public education. So I'm going to read to you a short section about the beginnings of public education. The Founding Fathers maintained that the success of the fragile American democracy would depend on the competency of its citizens. They believed strongly that preserving democracy would require an educated public that could understand political and social issues and would participate in civic life, vote wisely, protect their rights and freedoms, resist tyrants and demagogues. So that is why public education is here. Now it has evolved some, and if you read through the evolution of public education, its mission has been to embrace immigrants, to help create economic inclusion, to try to right some of the difficulties of our society. And that's what public education is still about today. And so the job of this board is to assure those rights and that education for the future citizens of this country. And as a person who is about to have their last child graduate, I am now a voter, a person who votes for the school board. And I'm not voting for what's best for my child. I'm voting for what's best for my country. So as we talk about diversity and how important it's been in the evolution of public education, I am very concerned when I hear people on this board say things like the 1619 Project was rooted in communism, or we can't talk about the reality of what happened with Christopher Columbus. I find this very disturbing, that we are not able to have frank conversations about our history, the wonderful things about America and the frankly evil things about America. Both of those things are our history, and both of those things need to be taught. And the diversity policy that we have come up with in this district does no one any good. And all we have to do is look at what nearby districts like Tuckahoe and Scarsdale did. They gave substantial policies that are meaningful and will, create an education for the future of democracy. The other thing that's really important about the way education is set up in public school in America is that it's a partnership between local government, which is what you are, our state, which is where the center of the rules exist in this country, and the federal government. So when I see members of our school board criticizing our state legislators on Facebook for taking a picture at a PTA breakfast, I am terribly disturbed. I have brought this forward to ask, why members Jackie DeMarco and Jonah Rizzo-Bleichman felt comfortable doing that.
Renee, you can't go there. You can't mention individuals.
They posted this on Facebook.
Then
so
someone.
I feel that's warranted. When we have built, the parents in this community for the past 5 years have been working with our state legislators, our local government, to make sure that we get the funding we need. And it wasn't until all of those groups came together, right? Individually, teachers have been advocating, maybe the superintendent was advocating, but nobody from this school board ever showed up in Albany until the PTA took that leadership role. And for this board to risk any of that relationship, I feel, is very disrespectful. So I just wanted to make sure that people understand that that's what happened.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. There being no one else, we'll close the comments from the public. And Dr. Lass, would you like to say anything?
Just happy to provide a little bit of the detail that was brought forward in some of the questions that were asked around strategic goals. Yes, the complete strategic plan is posted on the website. The initial goals for the strategic plan there are 3, and each one is rather sequential and requires a lot more detailed planning and work. So we're starting with the first one, which is really about building out the awareness, and it was mentioned in the comments that there isn't a lot of awareness, and that is exactly the point. That's why the first goal was created, is to try to build that awareness, not just externally with the community, but also internally with our staff and stakeholders, to build a deeper understanding of what the 5 dispositions are, and so those are going to be really, really important, and that's what we're in the middle of now. So more work to come on that. I also heard the comment about more of the school goals being visible in school buildings. I think that's coming. We'll have more graphical representations of those skills that will go along with the goals, and we'll be able to post those. On our website, you will see the SMART goals for the district for the year, and all of the schools aligned to that, and that was pre-strategic plan, so that's there as well. But I think I hear and understand the question, and I think it's absolutely true that is exactly the work that we're working on right now and getting that done. That was not led by Jonathan. He got us to that point, the facilitator for strategic planning. It's our responsibility to carry that forward. And as Jonathan said, this is years worth of work, so it's a journey and it's a work in progress. The question came up also about an equity leader. That is not proposed in the budget currently. It was not a recommendation that came forward from the committee. There was a recommendation in there that talked about training and so forth, so we thought we would start in places that didn't require a dedicated expenditure. In previous districts in which I've worked, we have added equity leaders in those positions, or at least one district equity officer. I think it's something you work toward, and I think the sense was we had a lot of other things that we can and should be working on before we invest in that, and make that investment. But it is something that I think didn't specifically come out as a recommendation at this time. So it's not something that's off the table, but I can say that having, gone through the task force experience, I think one of the things you come to is you realize at some point we need to get some additional support, some additional training, some additional professional development. And then it's a really, really important question what that looks like. Is it something you bring in from the outside, and how does it fit with your ability to actually deliver it to members of the community and members of the school system? Does it fit into your professional development days, or is it a standalone position? And all of those decision points in that, not only, they require thoughtful discussion because they're not only about dollars, they're also about who's the right person to do that for us. And so, I could go on, I could tell you 3 or 4 different people you could hire to bring that to bear. But is that the right, how do we assure that that's the right training and the right person for our community? I think there's a lot more discussion that would have to be had before you got to that. But yeah, so no equity leader position was put into this year's budget because it really didn't come up. But I think it's something that down the line the district can talk about and consider.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I would just like also to add that there's right out in the hallway here, walk down the hallway on the left side, there's a framed poster of the high school's beliefs. Okay, that was developed years ago by the staff and the students, and that's posted in the lobby for everybody to see as they walk past it every day. Just take a walk down there and take a look at it. That's just one example, and I think Dr. Glass is talking about we're going to be doing more of that kind of stuff. So, okay, any comments from the board? Yes? No? Yes.
I just wanted to pick up the thread of, I think, a really important question about, an equity leader in the district. And one of the things that we could look to do in the near future is to visit some of these districts that do have, people in a capacity like that in the district to try to understand the value that's being added at some of the districts in our region. I mean, I think that increasingly professional development is on the budget, and increasingly I think we're talking about taking the show on the road and seeing what's happening in other districts, and that would be a great way to do that, to see, well, what is happening and how could it work for us. So just wanted to put that out there while we're talking about this issue. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Nobody else? Okay, can we get a motion to go to executive session for the purposes of discussing collective bargaining? Jackie? Christie? Okay. All in favor? Okay. Thank you all very much, and see you next time.